This episode is sponsored by UPMC Altoona Elite Orthopedics. UPMC Altoona Elite Orthopedics and the UPMC Sports Medicine Concussion Program are proud to support youth sports across our region and proud to sponsor the high school football preview show on the Mirror TV YouTube channel. To learn more about their board-certified orthopedic surgeons, their specially trained concussion management experts, and the wide range of orthopedic conditions they treat, visit upmcaltoona.com/ortho. To schedule an appointment in one of their offices in Hollidaysburg, Ebensburg, or Bedford, call 814-889-3600. That's 814-889-3600. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Season 3 of this version of the Altoona Mirror High School Football TV show on YouTube. Joined again for the third year in a row, Mike Boydham. I'm Scott Franca. And before we start our Week 1 stuff, we'd like to brag a little bit that we won Keystone Media Awards for this program from last year. Mike submitted an episode. It was judged. Mike got an award, I got an award, we're showing them off. We're going to show them off all year long.
A bigger upset than any high school football game
that's right.
this year.
We went up against big-time newspapers, but they didn't have the content that we had. They didn't do the goofy stuff that we did, and they didn't get free stuff sent to them. We're showing our little history here. Mike has the cups over there. We have some, last year we did the masks, and this is our tribute to Williamsburg. Even though there's no more Williamsburg, we have our Williamsburg up. And this year, before we start again, Mike and I decided that we're going to ask for hats. We would like people to send hats to us. We got a Tyrone hat. We got a Hollidaysburg hat. I've already been told by a medium-ranking official at UPMC out there on 36 that somebody's going to send us a Penn Cambria hat. I want to see it here. I want to see it on the show for next week. So let's hope that is going to be here. And real quick, the lady who directed and helped produce our show last year, Sarah Vasile, isn't here anymore. She moved on to bigger and better things. She's in New York City now working at a TV station. And all she left us in her memory was her box of ramen noodles that she left on her desk. That's all we had to remember Sarah by.
She also played a big role in us winning the award.
She did. She did all kinds of fancy schmancy things. And now Dan Eisenberg's behind the camera. He's going to be producing and directing and doing all that stuff. It's kind of like...
So if the show's not as good, blame him.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Spielberg directed Jaws and won all those awards, and then they did a Jaws 2, and Spielberg moved on. So whoever directed Jaws 2, that's Dan. So we'll see how this does, our third version of the high school football show. And first we're going to start with, Mike's picked out 6 games. First game we're going to be talking about is Altoona Hollidaysburg. Both teams coming off District 6 championships last year, one for 6A, one for 5A. This game's at Hollidaysburg. I'll let you take this one first.
Well, Altoona has yet to beat Hollidaysburg since the team started playing again back in 2018. And Vince Niedermeyer Jr. and the guys really want to get this one because they don't want to be known for the teams that can't beat Hollidaysburg. And Ethan Straub is coming back. He's going to be a tough guy for Hollidaysburg to stop. He kind of really was the key that unlocked that offense last year. When I talked to opposing teams that played against Altoona, they said the key to Vince's offense was finding that good fullback. And they really found it with Ethan. But Marcus Day is obviously graduated now, so they got to find a new trigger man. That might be Aiden Steinbugle. We'll see what happens. But Hollidaysburg also is replacing somebody at quarterback. We're having Jake McGinnis on there, and he's been in and out of the lineup at quarterback for the Golden Tigers. But they're expecting big things out of him this year, right, Scotty?
Yes, he's in. I mean, he's their guy. What Mike said, Ethan Straub, I mean, I'm not even playing the game. He scares me. I mean, little known secret, my sons play for Holliesburg, and that's who I'm terrified of. Straub's so good, he literally could block for himself while he's running, and just still nobody would be able to tackle him. He's that good, and he's good on defense too. Holliesburg's version of Ethan is a kid named Xander Bainey, who he's not as big as Ethan. I think he's a little bit faster than Ethan, but I think this game's going to come down to offensive lines. In our next game, after the Altoona Holliesburg, we're going to talk about Bedford at Central Cambria. Central Cambria, if you read Mike's stuff in the Mirror this week about doing well in season openers under Shane McGregor, but Bedford's a whole new beast. Bedford just seems to lose players, and then they get better players, and they just coach them up, and they got the kid Mercury Swain back at quarterback. How hard is this going to be for Central Cambria?
I was going to say the most important thing is that you have the returning cool name, Mercury Swain.
Mercury Swain, Mike, I forgot about cool. I don't even have anybody ready for tonight, which makes me nervous, but we'll have somebody ready for next week.
So the Mercury Swain has been a revelation at Bedford ever since he took over for Steven Ressler at quarterback. Now he has Kevin Ressler as another weapon there, and Bedford's going to have another great season. Will they make it to the Final Four in the state again? I don't know. It's going to be tough because they're going to have to run into Central along the way at some point there, who they beat last year when Jeff Hohenstein got hurt. But Central Cambria also has a ton of players back, and when I talked to Shane McGregor during the Laurel Highlands track meet this year, he was so excited about the players he has coming back and the progress that program's made. And if you remember, another cool name, Bob Still was leading our whole area in rushing at the beginning of the year last year, and he's back for Central Cambria. So, the Red Devils, it'll be a little bit tougher to get that win in the opener this year, but maybe expect big things out of them this year too.
Talking about expectations, our next game, Bishop Guilfoyle at Johnstown. BG graduated a lot of big names. They got some stars back as far as skill position people like Cooper Hayden Garner. But I think, to me, BG, now they're playing Johnstown. Johnstown hasn't had a lot of success recently. BG has to replace several offensive linemen. Again, just like we talked about Altoona Holliesburg, the game being at the offensive line. I think this is a good game for BG to find out where their work is needed on the offensive line. But I did see Johnstown this summer a couple of times at 7-on-7, which means you're only watching quarterbacks, receivers, running back. They had a lot of nice skill position people. Now, I don't know if there's anybody that's going to be able to block or tackle, but I know at least in these 7-on-7 games, they looked like they knew what they were doing.
And that's what Coach Wheeler was most worried about. When I talked to him, he said that they can score from anywhere on the field at any time. Now the problem is they haven't been able to stop anybody from scoring. Johnstown has been 1-28 over the last 3 seasons, and that is just hard to believe with a school that size. They're playing smaller schools.
It was like 5 years ago. Didn't they just beat Clear? Like 2016, they beat Clearfield for like the District 6 championship.
They had a great program. They had a great rivalry with BG. Yeah. This used to be a really high-profile game. But hey, they're going to be up for this game because, they win this game, they're right back on the map, and everybody's excited for that first week of the season.
Yeah, speaking about being excited first week, our next game, the Backyard Brawl, Tyrone at Bellwood Annis. Another least kept secret is who my brother's the coach of, is I will always pick Tyrone. But boy, if you read the Mirror magazine this week, the insert, the size of the offensive line that Bellwood Annis is bringing into this game. Bellwood Annis has grown men playing on the offensive line, and I look at some of these other ICC schools, and Tyrone's ICC, they just look like high school kids. And again, I'm going to preach about that line. Tyrone's going to have to stop the run game because Bellwood Annis isn't going to throw. They're going to come out and just run the ball down your throat and say, go ahead, stop us.
Well, they have some all-state linemen back, and your brother said that he feels like they have one of the best lines and linebacker core in the entire state. They have big goals this year. They want to finally get past Richland and win a district title, and this might be the year that they can do it. They have a lot returning, and Tyrone is young. Now, that's not to say Tyrone's going to have a bad season. The Mountain League isn't really that great this year. Tyrone might have some success, but it's going to be really hard to come out here when they're still trying to fill those holes of, Brandon Lucas, Damon Grip, Matt Clifton. Those are all really great players. Tommy Hicks.
Yes.
You got to replace those guys, and they haven't had the game experience to do that yet. Where Bellwood, they're not plugging in too many holes, and the holes they are plugging in, they have the offensive line to protect those guys, and it's just going to be a tough challenge.
Yeah, the Gamp kid for Tyrone's good. I know there's a 10th grader named Braden Ewing that John is high on. He was a real good wrestler last year in 9th grade, and he could be one of their better linemen, but again, he's a 10th grader. Gamp is an 11th grader, and I think Tyrone only has 6 seniors, huh?
And from what I've heard, Tyrone's going to be very good going down the road.
But
But Bellwood wants to win this game. This would be 3 in a row for Bellwood, and they know about it.
And our next game, people know about it, is that Williamsburg has players going to Juniata Valley now because their program is no longer. They're going to Tussey Mountain. Juniata Valley on paper, if you look at the Williamsburg kids that were added to that team, Juniata Valley already had a lot of good kids on that team. And Williamsburg has a lot of good kids now that are going to be on that team. What does Tussey Mountain have? Other they have a new coach, but boy, Juniata Valley looks like they could be loaded for bear.
And I talked to Coach Luco, who's the new coach at Tussey Mountain after Anthony Sotasante left in June, kind of short notice there. He said, well, Williamsburg was a good team by themselves, and now they're with Juniata Valley, and Juniata Valley has kind of filled some of the holes that they had with these Williamsburg players, and they are a really tough team. I don't know if we're going to call them Juniata Valley Blue Pirates or how that's going to work, but they are going, the one thing that they have their eyes on is not blue or green, it's gold. Because they have a shot at the District 6 championship with the roster that they can put out there.
And it's not too early to say next week, is there a good chance the Juniata Valley Tyrone game will be on our list? Because that looks like that's going to be a nice game.
It could be a good game.
Another game here, our last game we're going to look at, a team that's not in the Mirror Central coverage area, but we still have them in our paper line. Southern Huntingdon at Northern Bedford. From what I was talking to some people who told me, Northern Bedford has a lot of kids they got to replace. But Southern Huntingdon, Aaron Batesville last year, and Mike had a great point. The games that they played last year, they won.
Yeah.
The one game was taken from them.
The one game they qualified for the playoffs, and they ran into some COVID issues, and they had to forfeit.
And then they came out and just played a regular game, and they spanked somebody.
Yeah, they beat Columbia.
Yeah, beat Columbia. So Southern Huntingdon, again, another team I saw at 7-on-7 this summer a couple times, and they had a lot of nice skill position people. And the Batesville kid might be turning them into some kind of small school juggernaut. So I'm anxious to see what Northern Bedford has back. What are you expecting?
And it's got to be an exciting game for Aaron Batesville because he's coaching against Northern Bedford where he went to school and his father's the athletic director.
Yes.
So Northern Bedford is in a unique position. They need to replace most of their skill players, but they do have a lot of experience on the line. And what we talked about with Bellwood is when you have that line experience, it makes it a little easier to replace the skill players because they feel protected back there, and it's a little bit more of a smooth transition for their learning curve, and that's what Gary Black is hoping for. But Northern Bedford just has a brutal schedule to start the season. They have to play several district champions, but the one thing they have going for them is they're going to be playing Tussey Mountain in district championship game because there's only 2 teams in District 5 1A. So even if they don't pick up some wins on the scoreboard, they're still going to develop and become better players, which is what the goal is by the end of the season.
In Northern, isn't their game next week a Cambria Heights game now? They got added. That could be a nice game as well. The thing I'm curious about Jeff Batesville is he going to be rooting for his son to lose? Because I can't imagine. It was hard for me to root for my brother to lose when they play Hollidaysburg each year. I do it because of my sons, but it is hard to do, and it's kind of hard to, that's your son across the field there, and you want your son to be successful. Maybe he wants his son to go like 9-1, and he would live with that and everything, but who knows?
Scott, we work for the newspaper, we cheer for everybody.
No, there's some professional teams I do not cheer for. But that'll do it for week 1. Don't forget now, if you're watching, we want you to hit like, right? We want you to hit that click thing there, like. I'm learning this technology stuff here. I want hats sent here next week. I'm open. People don't let us down, and just walk up and give Mike a hat, give me a hat, drop it off at the mirror, and then we're going to try and bring some of this other stuff to the forefront. And we will have next week, I forgot, I want to wait and see what's in the paper next weekend, see what names we pull out. I don't want to just pull out 9th and 10th graders because they're new. Maybe there's some names that I skipped over. So we will have our cool name segment starting next week. But for Mike Boyden, I'm Scott Franco, Dan Eisenberg behind the camera. Thanks for watching the El Mirror Football Show on YouTube.